Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Living Astrology with Janet. It's time to grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back and relax while we chat about what is happening in the stars above. And today we're taking a look ahead at April. And this was the show I was supposed to do on Wednesday. However, Mother Nature had a different plan for us. We had a big windstorm. First of all, tons of rain happened, right? Like just before the wind kicked up. Then the wind kicked up and it got warm, which is weird. And we were all sitting outside having dinner. We sat outside to have dinner that night. This was like Tuesday night because it was so warm. Not warm like hot, but for Pacific Northwest, it was probably, I don't know, 55 degrees. We sat outside watching the wind knocking over trees and branches. It was ridiculous, right? But the RV, the way it was sitting, it was blocking the wind from hitting us directly. So we're sitting there watching that, and all of a sudden the power went out. And we were like, oh, there goes the power. That was at like 4:47 Tuesday night. And the power company said it should be restored by 9:30 that night. Yeah, well, that time came and went. And we all expected sometime in the middle of the night the power would go on, and then it didn't. And then when we got up and checked, it said it was going to be on by 7. No worries, right? On by 7. And then it changed to 8, and then it changed to 10. Finally. And then, on top of that, we actually have extra coverage for those kinds of times because my daughter works at home, so she has to be able to plug in and do her job even if the power is out. But their generator wouldn't work. So it was like this double whammy. The power's out, their generator won't work. My generator was working. Finally, we got this brilliant idea at 8:10 to see if we could plug her generator into my outdoor plugins, and it worked. But by then, I guess I could have come on and done the show. But by then, I'd already told everybody I wasn't going to be on. And Tam, who was going to be with me on Wednesday, what had already gone on to do something else. So I thought, oh, well, we'll do it on Friday. So I apologize for Mother Nature's interference in my life. And yet here we are today going to talk about the month of April. So good morning to everybody who's here with me this morning. I saw our guest this morning. I also saw a bunch of comments from everybody from Wednesday. Thank you so much for trying to connect. That's really heartening to see. Good morning, Christine. Good morning, Peggy and J-Lo and Julie. Good to see you. And yes, I'm glad to be back, and I hope everybody else finds their way here this morning. As I did have a little bit of difficulty with Facebook trying to let me do the show. But we'll see. There's Tina. Okay, Tina, hi. Thank you for being there and letting me see that. Yes, Facebook is working as well this morning. Yay! All right, so I hope everybody is doing well. I did want to make one quick announcement. For those of you who did not get your energy almanac yet for 2026, 2027, remember this started in March, right? The hard copy goes from March to March to embrace the astrological year. Well, it just so happens I had been slated to do a fair when I broke my knee, and I have like 50 extra copies of this. And I am going to sell them. If you need one, let me know. I put the link in the let's see if I can put the link up and show everybody. There's the link. I'm selling these for $40, including postage and handling. So if you want your copy, originally retail price is $60 plus shipping. I'm going to sell them to you for $40, including shipping. You just follow that link to buy it, and I will mail you a copy of this. Of course, this is the full-on 52 weeks from March 20th till next March 19th, which is, embracing the whole of the astrological year. So extra copies so that I can get them out of the boxes that I have. So anyway, there's that. If anybody has any questions about that, let me know. Let's see, any new comments here? Julie got hers. Debbie, good morning to you. I'm so glad you made it. Tina, I think I did say good morning to you, but in case I just said, hey, Tina, thanks for checking in. Good morning to you. So I'm going to start this morning with graphics because I really feel like there is something to be said about the visual of what it is that we're looking for or looking at for April. So, there are these moments in life that we come to astrologically, but just in our lives in general, where something starts to shift inside of us. We feel it, right? We feel the shift coming. And it's maybe quietly at first, right? Maybe we have this realization, the little light bulb starts to come on. Then maybe that realization becomes a truth, and a knowing comes after that. And it's a knowing that doesn't come from the mind, but really comes from somewhere much deeper within us. And April is providing us one of those kinds of moments over the course of the month. What begins or began even in March as a stirring within quickly becomes this movement of energy that is, no longer containable, right? It is ready to just be out in the world. And by the middle of the month of April, it's like life is asking something of you, and it's not gently, but it's clearly, right? Clearly, you're being asked to do something, to move in a certain direction, to release something, to open up to something new, to step forward, right? Action, to step forward, or to choose something, to choose an action, or to become something more than what you have been, right? To become your true, authentic, sovereign self, right? This is, April. So this is the whole journey for the month of April from truth into embodiment, and it's going to take you asking and pulling up your inner courage to move through this particular month, every step of the way, right? From the realization to the truth to the knowing to the action. All of that is going to take courage on your part. Now, it's extraordinary to see how it plays out in the astrology. So the first chart I'm going to bring up is that of April 1st. And I'm going to make this just a titch bigger for me so that I can show it to you. So here we have April 1st. And I want you to look at the Aries part of this chart where it's highlighted in orange. We have on April 1st, which is just this coming Wednesday, we have 5 planets in Aries, right? We have Neptune and Saturn, of course. The sun is in Aries, and Eris and Chiron, all 5 of them. But if you look over to the right of that, you also see Pisces, right? Where we have Mars, Pallas Athena, Mercury, and the North Node. So that's about split evenly, if you will, between Pisces energy and the energy of Aries. So we're building, right? This is where I'm saying this like realization is coming, right? Because this energy is starting to really build. Now, fast forward to April 15th and look at what's happened, right? Look at Aries. The same Aries position that held 5 planets on the first now holds 8 planets. Mercury, the moon, Neptune, Mars, Saturn, Eris, Chiron, and the sun, right? On April 15th. We've just about emptied out the sign of Pisces and put it into the sign of Aries. So now there's this truth, right? Now it is so blatantly in our faces that there's this new beginning, right? There's this need to stand up and be counted and be your true self, right? It's so loud. So this is kind of the apex point of the month. And then let's fast forward one more time and take a look at April 30th's chart. And you see, even at the end of the month of April, we still have 7 planets in Aries. Now we have Pallas Athena that's moved into that. We have Neptune, Saturn, Mars, Mercury, Eris, and Chiron. The only one that's really moved on is the moon, of course, because it's always moving, but also the sun. The sun exited into the sign of Taurus. So it's kind of, when you can see this graphically, this progression of planets, it's kind of one of those things that really, wakes you up and goes, oh, there is something of magic at work here in the month of April. So I just wanted to make sure we started with that because it really shows us this dynamic. And now I also prepared for us did I not bring it in here? Mm. Oh no, there it is. Here is our calendar for the month of April. And as you can see, it's a busy one. Although in this particular, one, we have something going on just about every week, right? And I think I added the human design weeks on here as well. So I will make this downloadable for you and it will be available in the Facebook page and also under in YouTube in the description for the video. And here we have, a week a month that begins right away with a full moon in Libra, right? The full moon starts our month and we progress through with, not very many days. Unlike March, remember March's calendar when we looked at it had a lot of emptiness, a lot of, days where there was not much going on. It was like a time for us to kind of gain our feet and, gain some momentum, just maybe integrate or relax and rest a little before some of the crazy things for April started to happen. And here you have it, right? Literally almost every day. And by the way, that page is taken directly from the Energy Almanac because each month, right, here's March, we begin, with the calendar, kind of the big ideas of what's happening for the month. And then after that, you have your own month at a glance page, right? So you can take, what is written here for April and you can put it into your own book. So it's very useful to have. And of course, all of the information for the month is also in there. So as we look at this calendar, if I give you a theme for each one of the weeks, maybe you can jot this down or, just kind of put it in your brain. There's this energetic integrity that pervades the month of April. And there's a very clear arc for the month of how things are rolling out, right? What's being revealed at each step. In week 1, we have this awareness that's coming to us. Remember, a full moon is often a time of that revelation, right? That aha moment or epiphany that wakes us up or prompts us to let something go so that we can be ready to move in a new direction. So week 1 is all about the awareness. What is awakening within us? In week 2, we have movement. We have Mars that is now activating. It is sextiling Uranus in the second week and also moving out of Pisces and into Aries, his hometown. Aries is his home place. And that becomes a very powerful planet that embodies the month of April, right? Because for the entire month then, from the 9th on, he is in his home sign. So Mars has extra oomph for the month of April. Now, if we move on to week 3, you can see every day of week 3 is absolutely packed with something, right? From, Venus, Mercury to I put crazy moon day because the 15th has so much going on as the moon moves into Aries. And I showed it to you. That second chart that I showed you was April 15th's chart. And it shows you how much is going on in that particular day. That's why I just called it Crazy Moon Day, because the moon is now hitting all of the planets that were in Aries. And you know how the moon is. It's a trigger, right? The moon triggers things. So the week 3 then is really a week about initiation, right? It's like poking the bear, getting things started, getting things rolling. We also have a couple of Mars transits and Mercury that are pretty important. Mars connecting to Saturn and Mercury conjunct Neptune. And we have the new moon in that same week, right? The 17th, where the new moon is in Aries. So there's an initiation week going on here. As we move to the 4th week here, we have stabilization and a shift. So, where we've been building to something at this last week or this 4th week of the month, we are shifting, right? It's the point at which things move into the new energy. And then the last couple of days of the month, it really becomes the integration point for all of the energies of April. It's really not the start of something new at this point. It's already probably started in either week 3 or 4, maybe even up in week 2. But it is the time for us to take everything in that has happened for the month and sort of integrate it within us. So it is a sort of big week for us, or a big month all the way around. And be ready, right? I would say get your running shoes on, but it's not so much the running shoes because I think it's going to be one of those things that's exciting, maybe daunting. And you got to keep in mind that the outer world is also looking like there's volatility, right? Instability. There's this certain energy of unsuredness. We don't know exactly how things are going to play out, or what is exactly going to happen on the different war fronts, on the economic front. And those things kind of are creating this instability in the outer world, or in the collective, which is also going to impact you. So you have to be able to stay focused on what is correct for you, right? On what it is that you are doing. Okay. So I also noticed that as we move into the last week of March here, the earth begins to move into all of the gates of the spleen in your human design. And the spleen is the center for time and intuition and health and well being, but it is also a place where each of those gates can double as fear, right? Or a shadow energy. So, this is the exact opposite of what happens to us in early fall through the fall. We have late September, all of October, and one week or so of November, where the sun is moving through all the gates of the spleen. So when the sun is there, it's this bright light. It's showing us that how we can get to the highest point of this energy. When the earth is moving through there, it tells us there's something that must be grounded. If in fact we want to move beyond fear and move beyond the shadow energies, there's something that we have to ground, right? So, this spleen activation, if you will, from the last week of March all the way through the first week of May, is going to be about facing fear patterns. So imagine this: April, you just saw how busy the month of April is going to be, how the opportunities there are all about courage and bravery and moving forward and being your best self, if you will, taking those next steps, right? Being activated in some way to live in your sovereignty, to be your true and authentic self. And now you have the earth moving through the gates of the spleen that will be activating the fear challenges that each one of us has. Now, some of us, we're going to deal with all the different fears, right? That happens, right? Sometimes it's like a simple little trigger, but some of you have those same gates defined already in your human design, and that means that it's doubling up, or putting some more pressure on where that fear is. And as the earth moves through these gates of the spleen, something deeply instinctual and somatic begins to happen, somatic in the body, right? And instinctual starts to move through us. And it's not just mental. This isn't just mental energy. This is felt in the body, because the body is the interface between the divine spiritual you and the earth itself. So you may notice during these next 7 weeks or so a subtle anxiety or unease. And that could be compounded by things that are happening in the outer world, right? If something blows up, for example, in the outer world, it could add to the load of ill at ease feelings that you have within you. So you just have to remember, that outer world is also impacting you. Old fear patterns may resurface during this period of time, things that you thought you dealt with. And sometimes they just come back as sort of a, yeah, let's see, how well you really did move through this fear of being inadequate, right? And are you going to jump in and take one more class or one more certification before you actually do what you love and share what you know? Or are you going to get over that? You're right. Face that fear and do it anyway. That's the spleen, right? Feel the fear and do it anyway, right? So you may also have the desire to kind of take and grip onto things tighter and to be more controlling, to manage outcomes. And in fact, the first week of the month, which actually begins March 30th in human design, is with the sun in the gate of control, right? So controlling things are in our face the first week of April, which actually, like I said, begins March 30th. And the earth that is triggering a fear is going to be in the gate 48, which is the fear of inadequacy. So no fun, no, reason. I just asked that. So we have the wisdom energy, right? That is here as a fear this first as we move into April. And in its shadow, it is inadequacy. In its gift, it's resourcefulness, knowing that you have all the resources that you need, that you have all the wisdom that you need. And in the Siddhi, the highest expression is wisdom, right? Is the wisdom that you carry deep within you already. And you couple that with the things that you've learned, and you put your work out into the world, or you do those things that you love. And which gates in the spleen? All of them. Every gate in the spleen is going to be hit week after week, right? It just so happens that on March 30, right now we have the sun at the gate 17 and the earth at the gate 18. So we've already started with this need for perfectionism, right? The fear is I'm never going to be perfect. And as we start into April, we're going to be at the gate 48 with the earth. And that's the one that's about the fear of inadequacy, right? Not being good enough, not knowing enough, not having enough certifications before I can do what it is that I love to do. And then it will move on to the next gate. So, over those next 7 weeks, we hit every gate of the spleen center. All right. So the other thing you might notice with each of those subsequent gates being hit is moments of paralysis or hesitation. Um, Karen used to call the gates in the spleen paralysis points, right? When they're activated as fear, they can become paralysis points where you just get stuck in the fear. And remember, fear in the body for humans is, fight, flight, or freeze, right? The three F's there: fight, flight, or freeze. And if you find yourself getting in that pattern, you know that you're being impacted by fear, right? Fear is there, and you need to address that fear. So it's not that the planet Earth moving through these gates of fear is here to stop you. It's not about that. It's really much more about how to show you where your power is being held hostage by fear. Right? Where are you being held back by fear? And then recognizing it, thanking it for showing you that it's there still, you still in your field, letting it go and choosing to move forward, right? Feel the fear, do it anyway. That's the thing about the spleen. And each one of those gates, as we talk about them through the weeks ahead, will hold a little bit different shadow, right? The shadow as we enter April is going to be about inadequacy. Where do I not feel good enough, strong enough, wise enough, smart enough? Where do I not have those creds, the credentials that, the diplomas on the wall that tell me and tell you that I'm good enough to do what I do, right? And those things can stop you. Now, something else truly interesting happens on March 30th, right? So really the week, because I run the week from Sunday or Monday through Sunday, we started the month of April on March 30th, right? So March 30th through Easter, which is April 5th. And on March 30th, which is just this coming Monday, Venus will move out of Aries, where she has been, kind of her dazzling, fiery self, and she moves into Taurus. And, this is about our return to what truly matters in our lives, right? She is the goddess of relationships, and she is in Taurus in her home field advantage. This is her arena. She comes home here. And after the urgency and the fire of her transit through Aries, this shift can feel very grounding, and it can feel like we return to our senses in some way, and even sensuality, really feeling the feelings in the body and the embodiment of, ourselves, of being in the physical. and a return to what feels good and what feels real and feels sustainable. So this is a recalibration time even of our values, realigning ourselves. We get to always do this, right? We get to realign, and not what you think it is that you should be valuing, but what your body says is nourishing for you, what is supportive of you. And this is where your nervous system, if it's been keyed up by certain things, gets to exhale, right? It gets to breathe out. And that really matters because of all the things that are coming next, right? she's she's going to be a great grounding and source of comfort, I think, as the crazy of April really begins. All right. So let's take a look at the first day of April now, because we have a full moon to begin the month, and I actually have the chart of the full moon somewhere here. Here we go. Let me add that to the stage. And there you go. You go, hopefully can see it. And forgive the shape of the triangle. I went too far on the right side, so it looks lopsided. But what we have in this full moon is a T-square. And I'm going to break all of this down here in just a moment. So I want you to take a look over here on the left in Libra. We have the moon at 12 degrees, 22 minutes. And over here on the right, we have the sun in Aries at that same degree. And that sun is flanked by Neptune and Saturn on one side and Eris and Chiron on the other. And it makes this moon, even though it would be a loose conjunction of the sun to any one of these points, right? We could make the case that they are in a conjunction, but when you take the full force of all these planets together, it really brings up a theme, I think, that we can really look at. And this is a full-blown look at our relationships, right? This is not necessarily in a romantic way either. It's shining a light on our relationships in a way that brings us clarity about the rightness of the relationship, the unbalanced nature of the relationships that we're in. Where have we overextended ourselves in our relationships just to keep the peace? Where have we held back our truth to maintain some kind of a balance in relationships? And, Libra is a sign of relationship, it's partnering. So typically, this is more of the one-on-one dynamic that you have with someone close, a business partner, a significant other in your life. And this moon then forming a T-square, you can see the sun and moon hold the opposition point, and up at the top of the point is Jupiter in Cancer. It is what we would call the apex planet of this particular configuration. And it amplifies the emotional intensity of it because Jupiter is an amplifier, and he's amplifying the emotional energy of the sign of Cancer. So we have the moon and Libra in the opposition, and the moon and sun each 90 degrees pointing up at Jupiter. So it can feel a little bit like emotional overwhelm, right? We're starting right off in the month. It can feel like we have heightened sensitivity, right? More sensitive to the spoken and even the unspoken energies from around us, right? Things that people are saying or doing around us. And relationship dynamics can reach a tipping point at this time, right? And add to that, there is an inconjunct to Mercury in Pisces, and that brings a level of confusion to the emotional atmosphere. And we have a trine from Pluto or to Pluto in Aquarius. So we have these deep transformational insights potentially also bombarding us or, coming to light. And that means that this is really not superficial or surface level relationship work that we're entering into with this full moon. It's really about pattern breaking energy, right? Where can you break the patterns of in the relationships that you've been holding on to? Right. And I'm not advocating for you to leave relationships. That's not necessarily what this is all about. But we could say that what it is about is the need for us all to take a good look at our relationships and our they in balance? Are they supportive? Are they are they holding space for us to be our true and authentic selves, or are we being forced or feel like we're being forced into being something that we're not, right? And if that's the case, then we need to make some changes in those relationships, right? And I'm not going to say this is, difficult. Ter I don't wanna say it's terribly difficult, but it is difficult for us when it comes to one-on-one relationships. We are often very afraid to say what it is that we really feel or what it is that we need within those relationships because of abandonment issues, right? Or that, the person may not like us. We try to be liked, and, it's human nature to wanna belong. And in our closest relationships, sometimes we'll belong at any cost, right? Even if it costs us our personal sovereignty. And of course, this is not going to be tolerated at this point in time, right? April is all about the Aries energy, the moon in Libra showing us in the mirror what it is that we're doing to ourselves through our relationships. All right. So this full moon occurs, by the way, April 1st at 10:13 p.m. in Washington, D.C., so the East Coast. That puts it at 7:13 p.m. on the West Coast, but also moves it into April 2nd at 2:13 a.m. if you are in the Universal Time Zone, right, or any place east of in Europe. So Europe and Asia and further out. Um, so there you have that. And let's take a look at questions people might be having or comments. Uh, Thank you, J Lo. She says, be sure to smash that like button and the thumbs up to support today's broadcast. Thank you very much for that. Tina, what am I being tested with? Well, that's a great question because what you could do right now is take a look at your own astrology chart and see where Aries is. Where are you being tested? Right? Whatever house that is in is where this preponderance of planets are going to be sitting. Right? I showed at the very beginning of the broadcast, April 1st, 15th, and 30th, where we could see how all the planets were being added. We start with 5, then we go to 8, and then 7 at the end of the month. So we have, this dynamic of a lot of focus in that house that holds Aries in your chart. And if that happens to be, say, your 10th house, then it's a career that is being renegotiated, basically. If you have it in your 7th house, it would mean that it is happening in your relationships, your significant ones, and even taking a look at your open enemies and things like that. If it's in your 2nd house, it would be about money and your value and your self-worth. So, depending on where it is in your personal chart, that is what you're being tested with, right? Things are testing you. And also, it's not just testing, while that may be a component of what you're experiencing, this is really about realignment, right? Realigning with your true and authentic self, right? And you can take a look right now in your own life at what things are being jostled about. What things are you working hardest at really bringing in your truth? That's the area of life where there is possibly that test that precedes the awakening that moves us into, an initiation that then moves us into some kind of change, right? So it's, just think, if you just sit and think about that for yourself right now, even if you don't have your chart in front of you, what area of your life seems to be really under the gun, right? I hope that helps. And let's see, Tamara, well, the last 2 weeks have already been fun with my phone crashing and the internet and phone service being out and grocery orders being canceled. No one knows why. Talk about paralysis points. Yes, right. And yeah, that does seem to happen. Just weird things right now seem to happen, right? Just out of the blue weirdness. um, Julie, I dropped my phone in the toilet the other day. Oh my God, that's terrible. I have not done that, thankfully, knock on wood. Um, Treat yourself. Julie, my spleen is defined, but 48 is open. Okay, this is a good one. So when you have, so we were talking about Earth moving through all the gates of the spleen. And if you have an open gate, for example, Julie in this case has an open gate 48. Well, suddenly it's not open anymore, right? Now Earth is sitting there and has defined it. And that means that for you, inadequacy energy, which may normally just be about what's happening with others around you, becomes something that you end up focusing on. For whatever reason, it comes into you, right? And you get to take a look at the energy of wisdom and the energy of fear around not being wise enough, not being good enough, not having enough knowledge or intellect, all those things, right? That could keep you from doing what you really love or being who you really want to be. If you have it defined already, if you have gate 48 or any of the gates of the spleen defined, then you're now going to add the energy of earth to every one of them in sequence, right, as it goes down the line. So you're adding a phase of grounding around the fears, the shadow energies of each one of those gates, right? Now, if you're someone who has a spleen that's defined, the whole of the center is defined, meaning it's colored in, right? If you already have a defined spleen, you already have um, a sense of your well-being, but you also can get stuck, right? Sometimes you can get stuck in things because they've been so much a part of who you are. And so this might bring an opportunity to break out of patterns that have had you kind of caught in a snare. If you have an open spleen, you also sometimes deal with a certain amount of not knowing when enough is enough, right? And now you might have to just put your foot down and say, no more am I going to let inadequacy or a fear of not knowing enough keep me from doing what I want to do, right? I'm just going to do it. Just do it, right? Just be the Nike for a moment, right? And just do it. So I hope that helps. Christine defines spleen with many gates defined, body and mind sides. So definitely, for you, there is a huge opportunity to look at what fear's impact is in your life. Where does it hold you back? Right? Where does it scare you? Where does it stop you? Where do you joyfully leap ahead despite the fear? Right? That is the good side, the high side of all of that. Julie, Aries in the sixth house. This is work, service, health, and well-being. In the so you're going to have a lot of planets here helping you to restore, hopefully, good health, right, and well-being, and taking a look at the body and how your day-to-day routines either support you or debilitate you, right? So lots of energy there of beginning new healthy routines is how I would say that for you. Asa, good morning. Aries is my fifth house and my Jupiter is in Aries. So you have a huge opportunity to take risks, to jump out there creatively, to use your voice and your self-expression. But the one fear that you have that will be, activating is going to be about inadequacy, not knowing enough, being enough, having enough, not enough certifications, all of that kind of stuff. At least initially, I don't remember what the spleen looks like in your human design, Asa, but each one of those fears may end up as blocks to your creative expression, right? And also love and romance is in that realm as well. So think about that. How is in the fears and the shadow energies stopping you from having healthy, beautiful, wonderful relationships, right? A romantic, love interest type relationships. Christine, Aries 12th, Black Moon Lilith combined with spleen. Oh, joy. I don't think it is interesting to have Aries on the 12th house, I got to say, because the 12th house is a place of withdrawal and of serenity, right? Coming back in and retiring and relaxing, or, just respite and restoration kind of energy. But it's also a place where we are very aligned with spirit, and where, sometimes meditation is your best friend, because that is where the light bulbs come on so that you know which action steps to take. So likely, Christine, for you, this is going to be a need to balance both the more meditative, quiet, withdrawn energies with the action energies that you need to take to move forward in your life in some way. And that could be difficult because Aries wants to go, 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 right? And yet there's this quality of retreat a bit going on as well for you. Um, and Tamara, it rules my third house. So the third house is about your mind and thinking processes, learning and communication, and your neighborhood or siblings, the people around you, right? That are supportive or not supportive, as the case may be. And what new steps do you need to take with that? Mystique, J Lo, my progress chart has Mars, Jupiter, and Lilith in a tight conjunction in Aries, while my Chiron is in Aries also. So there's a lot of wound healing going on, or wound exposing, that you maybe have not had an opportunity yet to deal with or work through, that you now start to work through. Or maybe you're finishing working through those fears and now you're just shiny, bright, and new. And, this brings me to another part of this conversation that, is not exactly what I had planned, but, humanity is evolving. It's the best word I can think of. We are evolving. And, you've heard a lot of talk about raising the vibration so we can ascend to the fifth dimension and blah, yada, yada, blah. Well, that dimension is already available here for us, right? Most of you are already in that fifth dimensional frequency, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't probably be tuning into a show like mine, right? It wouldn't even be on your radar, right? You'd be listening to Fox News or something else, because that's more, fourth dimensional, leaning into the fifth dimensional kind of mindset. The fifth dimension is really much more about tapping into the information streams that come from higher consciousness or come from God, source, universal mind, whatever it is that you want to tap into. But what humanity is truly striving for here is the sixth dimensional consciousness, which is the embodiment of your spiritual self. Right now, we sort of flirt around the edges with being embodied divine beings, right? Sometimes it's very difficult to remember that you are a spirit housed in a physical body, and that you have all of the abilities of the creator, if you will, to manifest in your life, right? To be who you want to be and do what you want to do. As we move, further toward the sixth dimensional beingness, we will start to be the embodiment of the very principles that we right now talk about, right? That we are learning about. So our next step isn't ascending to a fifth dimension. It's really going beyond. It's really becoming the embodiment of all of those fifth dimensional concepts in a sixth dimensional consciousness. I hope that makes sense. If you guys have questions, let me know. Ba-ba-dum. So we have a lot of people with a lot of different things going on in their charts. I'm so happy that you all have your charts with you, or most of you do, I think, so that you understand how some of these things will impact you as time goes on. Good morning, Colleen. It's great to see you out there. And you're welcome, Christine. And my sister asked me if I watched the news. I'm like, I am the news in real time. I love it. That's great. And Christine says, bingo. All right. So sorry, I didn't mean to get so far into evolutionary thought, but it always bugged me that people were only thinking about rising to the fifth dimension, when most of you, if I tested your Akashic records right now for your soul frequency, you would already be in the fifth dimensional energies, right? Moving, from the beginning point to the ending point that then trips up to the sixth, right? There are very few sixth dimensional consciousness energies on the planet right now. We're a work in progress, right? We're moving to that. Okay, so let's see, what else do we have going on this month, since we've been sidetracking a titch here. Let's go into Easter Sunday, the 5th, where this one becomes interesting to me because the sun moves into the gate of shock, which is the gate 51 on your human design template. It sits on the will center, and it moves over toward the gate 25 in the identity center. So it forms this channel because we'll have Neptune still at gate 25 forming. So when the sun moves in on Easter to the gate 51, what we have is a complete channel, the channel of initiation. And that day sun is also in a square to Jupiter. It feels a little bit off, right, energetically to me that day, because something may be brought to light, something volatile happening in the outer world that rocks us in a way. And I don't know that it necessarily happens that day. It could be anywhere from the 5th through the 10th, when we have that gate of shock being very much loud and proud in our faces. But that same week has the gate 57 in the spleen center, defined by the earth. And that is called the gate of intuition, or the gate of clarity. It's where we're listening to our deeper inner voices, right? To get clarity about what it is that is happening around us. So shock is also akin to awakening. And so something could be awakening that forces us to move more inward to listen to our intuition. So there's that for that week. The following week, as we get, or let's go to the 9th real quick, where Mars moves into Aries. Mars is the planet of war. He's the god of war. And he is a planet that is often indicated when things blow up, right? Or when there's war, when there's attacks, because that is kind of Martian sort of energy. And when we have Mars in Aries, that kind of volatility is much easier to access, right? It's much more in our faces. And so one thing, for us to really watch out for then is, what is this bringing to us? What is the awakening that is like right there, right on the surface for us? It's been 2 years since Mars has been in this sign of his, right? So if we think back 2 years ago to, this energy of Mars and Aries, and where Aries is in your chart, there was something likely that started maybe as a little kernel, a little seed of awakening that's starting to come to fruition. And now Mars being here is the open invitation to take those next steps. Now, yet the week itself starts with an optimistic flare, right? So there's some optimism here, things to be happy about. The moon in Sagittarius starts that week. And that means things are more hopeful, maybe more future oriented, or even, the fact that we might be ready to move beyond some of the emotional heaviness that's been there as part of the experience. And then just before Mars moves in to the sign of Aries, he comes into a sextile to Uranus. So he'll still be in Pisces, and he'll be in that sextile to Uranus at the end of Taurus. And here, as he reaches this final degree in Pisces, there is this subtle but powerful sort of opportunity or breakthrough moment, a moment when something clicks, right? And that's available for all of us, right? That is available for all of us. And, you may experience a sudden idea or a sudden possibility that wasn't available before that becomes available. And maybe you finally have the courage to do something that you hadn't had the courage to do before. And this isn't about forcing something to happen. It's really just aligned movement, something inside you that says, try this instead, right? Let's do it this way. Let's try this. So it's an interesting final aspect pattern for Mars to hit Uranus before he moves into Aries. Now, when he moves into Aries, everything shifts because the energy becomes much more direct, bold, courageous, decisive, right? We kind of become more impulsive. We act before we think instead of thinking before we act. And after all the weeks of this emotional processing that's been going on, and the sensitivity that's been going on with planets that were moving through the sign of Pisces, now Mars in Aries says, enough waiting, move, do, go. And we may feel maybe more increased motivation, right? We're more motivated to get something done. Maybe we have impatience with stagnation, right? We just can't stand it anymore. So we're shaking things up. Maybe we have a desire to take control of our next steps, and we do it, right? We just do it. It is raw, initiating energy that Mars brings us in Aries, but it's not yet clear cut, right? Because of what's coming next, right? The next thing is the new human design week. And I'm just going to go through this one briefly because, as you know, Mondays and Fridays when I go through, we talk more about these in depth. But just as just 2 days after Mars moves into Aries, the Earth and the Sun change gates as well. And the Sun moves into the gate 42, and the Earth moves into the gate 32. The gate 42 Sun is all about completion before initiation. So it almost feels to me like there is something that must be concluded, that must come to an end before we can really initiate the true beginning with that Mars in Aries energy. And the Earth grounding us in the gate 32 endurance says we have the energy, the longevity, the ability to move through and stand the test of time. In the gene keys, as we look at this energy, it's really interesting because it moves from the shadow of expectation at the gate 42, gene key 42, to celebration in its highest, right? So if we move from expectation into the gift level of detachment, the final outcome is celebration. And the earth in the gate 32 endurance is the shadow of failure. We are afraid we will fail. We won't survive this. But the gift is preservation, and the highest expression is veneration. So it's a fascinating pairing that comes up just as Mars is really entering the realm of um, Aries. I wanted to see what gate Mars will be at that day. That is April 11th. Mars will be at the gate 25 still, right? Spirit, Mars, spirit in action. I love it. So but just as Mars is starting to push us forward, the energy of the human design tells us that something has to be complete first, right? So we have to have closure. Something has to come to a conclusion, and not everything can come to you with the next chapter until you do that, right? So there's something to be said about that. So so much to talk about, right? Now, April 12th, Mars conjuncts Neptune in Aries. He'll begin as he moves, moving into conjunction with all the other planets that are sitting there in Aries. And that means that new things get triggered for us. Mars conjunct Neptune is probably one of the most important connections of the month, in that Mars, which is action and will and desire, meets Neptune's dreams and intuition and illusion and spirituality. And it's this initiation energy, but through the Neptunian lens of vision. And there could be a surge of inspiration that each one of us has about doing something, a call towards something more meaningful in our lives, a desire to act on a vision or a dream that we've been holding, right? That we've been holding. And yet, Neptune ensures that there might be a level of confusion, maybe even doubt, right, in yourself. And is this the right time? Is this the right place? Is this the right person? Maybe unclear motivations. What's motivating me to do this? And being clear on those motivations. Not that your motivation might be wrong, but that what is the motivation? And are you clear on what's motivating you to do? And then maybe taking some action on things that aren't fully formed yet, but in a way, there's this paradox that's happening that week, right? This paradox that says you're being asked on one hand to act, right? To move, to, be bold. But on the other hand, you can't do that without some clarity. So on one hand, you're being slowed down to be clear about what it is that you're doing, what are your motivations, and how are you going to proceed, having the plan, taking the risk, but on the other hand, right, just feeling this need to take action. But while this is not comfortable energy, it's very creative energy, right? So that second and, leaning into the third week of April becomes very creative. And this is where your intuition leads you, right? That the earth in gate 57, grounding in your intuition. This is where imagination fuels the action that you're going to take, and where faith becomes necessary. Faith does not become optional here, right? Having faith in yourself, having faith that you're doing the right things. And that means that this second to third week is kind of a bridge for the month. It's a bridge week in that we're moving from that emotional processing and inner awareness and uh, the recognition of what needs to change in Pisces energy to the movement, courage, and initiation action energy of Mars in Aries and that build up energy of planets in Aries. But you're not meant to do it blindly, right? Not blindly. So you're completing what is ending first. Got to do that first. You are releasing attachment to specific outcomes and then trusting your intuition, your gut instinct, and taking aligned action, even if it feels uncertain, even if you feel unsure, even if there is that niggling doubt or fear that is, tending to paralysis in your life, right? This is about responding to the deeper current moving through you, right? Pushing and ending on one side so that it's clear for you to take the next steps. All right. How are you guys feeling about all of this? Good morning, Jana. And she says, J-Lo says, I'm so ready with 51 being my Chiron. Bring it on. I have my, I can't tell what that picture is because my eyes aren't letting me. Asa, open spleen. And yes, Janet, this explains so many things and feelings I'm experiencing now and explains things going on romantically as well. Thank you very much. You are truly gifted. Thank you. And you're welcome. And all right, so everybody's feeling good about April, it sounds like so far. Now, that doesn't, you got to know that our outer world is a titch crazy right now, right? It seems like, every day something is happening. Somebody said something, something did, something happened, a plane crashes, a war starts, things like that. And that creates a lot of background noise that you're also going to be contending with, right? So the point is to, not devolve into the fear of what's going on, right? Because there's a lot of chatter about those things, right? Some of it just made up, right? Some of it just somebody's opinion, not necessarily the real truth of what's happening. So just keep that in mind, right? As we move into April 13th, which puts us now, at the beginning of the third week, Venus comes into a beautiful configuration with Jupiter. And that kind of gives us this moment of grace, right? This moment before the fire truly builds up all the way. We begin with the softer energy, Venus in Taurus, sextile Jupiter in Cancer. So we have emotional warmth and we have, support. We have a sense of possibility. We have optimism. And this is a moment for us to just take in a few breaths before we dive into the most energetic part of the month. And then on April 14th, we end up with Mercury in a sextile to Uranus, and Mercury adds his energy to Aries that same day. It's just movement of planets into this new energy. So once Mercury enters Aries, then our minds become faster, right? Our thought processes are faster. The information stream becomes faster. It becomes more confrontational, right? The verbal battles begin kind of. There's more of a sharper tongue going through here, more decisive energy. And the question shifts from what do I feel, to what am I going to do about it? So that's another big shift that's happening in that third week. And April 15th, this day is truly electric. And I would love to share that day with you in depth, but right now I'm running out of time. So just keep tuned to all of this because as the moon moves into Aries on the 15th, it begins activating the entire Aries cluster. It's activating a sextile to Uranus, a conjunction to Mercury, a conjunction to Neptune, a conjunction to Mars, a sextile to Pluto, and then conjunction to Saturn. Boom, 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 right? And that may take a day or two to express fully because, of course, the moon does take some time to move. So this is a full body activation day of all of that Aries energy. So be prepared. You may feel more energized. You may feel more restless. You may feel more emotionally charged. right? You might also feel ready to act but unsure of what direction, which can mean we do some things impulsively. But this is a spark moving through your energy body. And it's kind of exciting. It's boom. You're right, Tina. It's a boom. And I'm really hoping that doesn't mean boom in our outer world either, right? Because as exciting as it might be for the human body, as we look at a collective that seems ready to go boom at any moment, it could be something like that, right? So just be aware, but don't go into fear. All right. So listen here. I am going to be posting a blog post. I don't know that I'll do it today because today is gardening day. We have nice weather. We are getting into the greenhouse and we are going to be pumping out a bunch of new seeds and things like that. So I'm not going to be sitting at my computer today, but I will over the weekend likely let go of a new blog post that'll have all of this information in it. Don't forget, you can, if you have not yet purchased a energy almanac, you can do so by reaching out to me because I have some here that I'm selling for $40, which is $20 less, plus the shipping is less because I've already included the shipping there, and I have that link somewhere here. But if I don't find it in the end here, just go ahead and there it is right there. I'm showing that on Facebook right now. And I'll also post it in the description of the YouTube video and you can purchase that and I will ship that to you. Okay. I only have 50 copies, I believe, left. So do it now, right? Make sure you get a copy. And I'm going to show it again here on YouTube. And there, nope, that's YouTube. All right. That's it for me, guys. Thank you. Have a great weekend. I will see you on Monday. We'll take up some more energy because now that will be the first day of the new week of the year, of the month, I mean. So see you then. Bye for now.